Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. My name is Donna Banks, and I am your host. Our guest tonight is Vicky Ehmen, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist and private practitioner since 1990. She has spent 6 years in the Women's Center counseling displaced homemakers, 13 years in vocational counseling and rehabilitation, and she is a member of the Executive Board of Directors, Daytona State College, master's degree in counseling, education, and a certified sex therapist. Thank you, Victoria, for being here this evening.
Well, thank you for having me tonight, Donna. Always a pleasure to see you.
Always a pleasure. Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Eilers Diamonds LLC, Lee's Press and Publishing Company, my new publisher. Praise the Lord. I'm so glad we connected. Milton McCulloch, author of Love and Emancipation, a Dante production, who will feature dueling saxophones on July 16th at Cinematique on Beach Street in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach. And the Fresh Book Festival is February 22, 23, 24 in the city of Daytona Beach. And please mark your calendars. If you have any questions for Vicky, you don't mind if we call you Vicky? It's so
Not at all.
Please leave them in the chat room, and this conversation is being recorded. So good evening, Vicky. I just want you to tell everyone, the audience, just a little bit about yourself.
Well, you did a really nice job of introducing me, Donna. So I am a marriage and family therapist, and I'm a certified sex therapist, and I've been working in the Daytona area for over 30 years, and it is my pleasure to serve on the executive board of the Falcon Hope Center at Daytona State College. They do such wonderful work in helping people in our community to get a leg up and to provide scholarships, as well as a snack program for students that may need some food while they're on campus, and a clothes closet. Yes. So it's been my pleasure to work with the Falcon Hope Center for all these many years.
And I thank you for inviting me to that luncheon, because I was just, listen, you can't be aware of everything, but I wasn't keenly aware of everything that was done. And thank you so much. It really did open a lot of eyes about what that program is all about at Daytona State. I don't think it gets the hoorah it should. So thank you for inviting us. And my friend Barbara Gertman was there. And so I think, you have to pick and choose what you're actively involved in. But if now that I know that when I'm presented with something, I know that I'm giving to something very important. So thank you for that.
Yes, and thank you for coming.
So this show, everybody, is about catfishing, love bombing, and ghosting. Now, we all know that those things were different languages probably years ago, but let's move forward to 2023, and let's talk about what they mean right now. So let's go over those terms, Victoria, separately. Let's start with catfishing, and we'll move on from there.
Well, I think catfishing is quite an issue right now. I think we've all heard from people who've had this experience where they think they're having a legitimate conversation and connection with someone, and they believe they know who this someone is, and then at some period of time they discover they really didn't have any idea who they were talking to. And perhaps by this point, they may have also gotten involved on multiple levels with this individual. And it usually happens when someone slides into their DMs, right? They take it offline and start having private conversations on social media with someone and convincing them that they are sincere and genuine in everything they're saying and doing.
And so there's never really a physical element in catfishing?
Thank you for asking that, because that is one of the things I want to say to listeners. If you're dealing with someone who is never available by video, who you can never really FaceTime with, that you never really see actively. Maybe they send you a picture, but it could be a stock picture that they send you that wasn't even a photo of them. And then when requests for money start coming in, you really want to have your listening ears on. Be paying attention to what is really going on here. And if it sounds too good to be true,
then it is. Yeah.
That's right.
So let's go to love bombing. What is that?
Well, I think that was an interesting question too. Love bombing is often associated in narcissistic relationships where the person would be described as love bombing you. And what is love bombing you? Let's just say it's rather engulfing. It's intense. You don't have much time to think about what is going on because they show up, boom, like gangbusters, and they don't give you much time to think.
So how do you listen? There's got to be a very thin line between these gestures could also be good for just a good old-fashioned relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So how is it that you tell the difference between someone who really genuinely wants to get to know you and then a love bombing situation? I think that the lines are very thin.
The lines are very thin, especially in limerence, as we may want to reflect for a minute on that stage of a love affair. Limerence is the beginning stage of a love affair. We're not always guaranteed to go into limerence, and that is the stage of love where we may use expressions like drunk in love. Over my head in love, right? It is a stage of love where we don't really have the person, but we're starting a relationship, and we look at them from afar, and all we can see is how wonderful they are, and those cute little red flags would look great in my front yard, and I'm not worried at all because I look good in red, so bring it, right? So in limerence, it's hard to think straight, and limerence cannot last longer than 18 months. Are not guaranteed 18 months. So I try to say to my people in limerence, just don't get married in limerence.
So more than 2 years.
You just sure you work through that stage and you see the real person, and you make sure those little red flags are really something you can live with, right? That they're not a complete stop sign. But the difference between limerence is when you're in a relationship with someone and it's the beginning stages and you're enjoying each other and you're not really in a full committed relationship. And love bombing is when someone is just sending you messages of love and adoration and maybe gift giving, and some fellas, well, I'm not saying women can't do it too, but they are so good. Someone will say, oh my God, my new boyfriend, he just sent me five cutest tops you've ever seen because he thought I'd look so great in them. And they are really overwhelming, but these people can be gone as fast as they arrive in a love bomb. Think of a bomb, boom, like that. I think someone who is authentically courting or showing us, some physical sign of their intentions are a little more paced and consistent, right? All addictions arrive with an urgency. So you really want to be cautious of that urgency when you start feeling it from the other person.
And so there's no real site you can go to and say, okay, this guy is the one you need to be careful of because he's a love bomber, right? I mean, you really just have to kind of go through the motions before you find out.
That's right. I think we're sort of back to, gee, is this too good to be true?
So,
I know we like the idea of a love bomb, but I'm telling you, it can really knock you off your feet and confuse you.
Okay, so once you find out, is that when the ghosting begins?
Yeah.
That person goes left on you?
Yes, ghosting. Yes. Often after a love bomb, you may be ghosted. That is really true, especially if you're one of these folks, and I've got to say, a lot of the women I see really could have had second careers as private detectives because they really know how to go through the internet, and they will find a like or a comment that identifies to them a sign that perhaps they aren't being told the whole truth about this individual. And they will, at that point, perhaps start confronting the person about the information that they have found. And then the person may just completely disappear on them.
But what if you're in a full-blown relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. That's not really, I mean, I don't know what you call it at that point. I think, is it still called ghosting, or is it's just something that we can't seem to grasp, that this person is not really for you or doesn't want you?
Well, I think that's a very good question, Donna. I think ghosting tends to reflect someone who just cuts off communication and you don't really know what's going on. One minute they're there and now what? You don't answer my calls, you don't respond to my texts, you don't answer on Messenger, you don't respond on social media. I've tried every way I know, and there's suddenly just no communication. Usually if we're in a full-blown relationship, at some point, if it's going to be over, the other person is going to indicate the relationship is over. At that point, do we call it ghosting if they stop responding to our calls?
Right.
Or are they doing us a favor?
Right. I mean, I don't know which is worse, being ghosted or being broke up with on a text message.
Well, I think both are rather cold. I think both are rather cold. Can I be honest? I think it's an avoidance of addressing the person you've been engaging with, whether that's a lack of maturity or accountability. You just can't look the person in the eye and say to them, this isn't going to work out.
And we always associate this with women, but I think it happens to a lot of men.
It does.
Because we receive the men that have been petrified by someone else, right? And so you have to deal with that too. Do men in your professional opinion, do they have the same reaction? Do they go through the same emotional?
I would say that depends on the man, just like it depends on the woman, right? And how invested did you get in this relationship? If you really got invested in it, you're going to be hurt if the person just drops you or they ghost you. And I don't think men are much different than women when this happens to them. Nobody really enjoys that feeling, and it leaves the person on the receiving end wondering what was it? What happened? Especially with ghosting. Usually in a breakup, you have some sign. Something's changing and you start to sense something's going on. Occasionally it can be a complete shock, but usually we have some sign that things are beginning to change.
Let's refer back to catfishing. Now, catfishing is luring someone into a relationship by means of a fictional online persona. So if we know that that's where we're at, how is it, and I just read recently, do you give up $39,000 to this person? How does that happen?
Well, we all scratch our heads, don't we? We just like, really? Really? Wouldn't that have been a red flag somewhere down the line? So we have to assume it doesn't start with 39,000.
No, absolutely not. So I know that a lot more happened during the pandemic because we were closed in and out of touch, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so there's those opportunists that really took and jumped on the fact that people weren't being socialized and weren't spending time together. And so this was a way of wiggling yourself in. So when we talk about that, are we talking about people with low self-esteem, someone who just needed companionship? What is it? in your professional opinion, that a person has to be lured in or not have to be lured into that kind of situation? And maybe
Well,
it could happen to anybody, right? Exactly.
I think love bombing may play a role in some of this, and that someone who might be hungry for affection or attention and has not had it for a while, or may not even have been looking for it, and somebody suddenly slides into their DM and starts showing interest in them. I think that they are more susceptible to having their head turned, and it feels good. And I think that once we start engaging with someone who has these intentions, that they are very good at luring the individual in. Very good.
How is it that you, I guess that's not a good word, therapize, have therapy for someone who's been through this experience? Where do you start?
How would I describe a person that I know?
Now, how would you start the healing process with a person?
Well,
Yeah.
I think that the healing usually begins when the individual can start talking about what really happened. There's a lot of shame in being catfished, a lot of shame in it, because you sincerely had feelings for someone, and this might go on for more than 2 or 3 years. The one person I know went on for almost 3 years,
Mm.
and that the shock of finding out that they had been involved with someone who was not who they thought they were is really shocking for them, very shocking. And it makes them question themselves. And I think, like any victim of a form of a crime of the heart, if not of the wallet, I think it leaves the victim feeling violated.
Mm.
And
Hey, go
maybe
ahead.
still in love with the persona, that they got attached to, that they
Mm.
find it hard and shocking to believe that this person was not real and was not sincere.
Mm. Yeah, that's got to be hard. So when we talk about certain personalities of people, do you find in your business acumen that they are very learned people? Are they women or men who have been in relationships and are looking for another relationship? Or is there a common thread in the type of people who get involved in this situation?
Well, I've seen very intelligent and well-educated people that got involved in situations like that, and their education didn't help them a bit in that situation. No, no, no. It had nothing to do with their education or their intellect, or I think it was that someone landed on them at the right time.
Mm.
When they were either vulnerable or they were ready or they were looking, but it was at a point in their life where when this person finds them, that they are open to the possibility
Of love or okay. Okay.
I'd say love. I would say attention. I mean, these folks that catfish know what to say. Come on.
Tony said she's been married 41 years.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's been happening for a while, Tony. I know that you're
Yeah,
kind of out of
yeah.
the scope of things, but
And we have to say now, people from all over the world have access to us. We don't even know I mean, from everywhere, people have access to us.
yeah. I'm going to have Loretha come on deck for a minute, Victoria,
Okay.
and tell us her story. We'll come right back to you. Come on
Very
deck,
nice.
Loretha. Come on.
Hello, everyone. What happened with me was I started a private caregiving job, and my client was she was really distressed because she lost her husband, and she was calling his name constantly to the point where I wore earplugs. And so the family didn't want me to have any company. I couldn't invite anyone over, couldn't have a sleepover, couldn't have a party. And so one day I get a ding on my Instagram, and this person says, "Hello." And I said, "Do I
Hello?
know you? Do I know you?" And he said, "You do now."
Oh,
And so what I found out 3 months later was that he had borrowed someone else's identity, and the person's identity that he borrowed, I found out later, was a very successful multi-level marketing person who had a tremendous amount of Facebook posts, and so it was just really interesting. But what I found out during the course of the 3 months was that he started to say the same things over and over again in response to the questions. He couldn't keep up. And before that, he started asking for Apple iTunes cards. I didn't even know what they were.
yeah. What are they?
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I went to Target and I bought their iTunes cards. It's a card, and then I didn't even know how he was going to get the card. He said to just flip it over and take a picture of the number on the back of the card.
You had to scratch it.
I don't think I even had to scratch it.
You don't have to scratch.
I
No.
don't think so, Donna. I mean,
Okay.
he was so clever at doing this. And then he just, well, let me see. I think I think the first time I did a 50, and the second time I might have did a 100. And then by then, my little mentee, who was a student at Bethune-Cookman, told me, "Miss Loretha, you're being catfished." And I said, "What?" And so that's how it happened. And so this is how it ended, Victoria. He thought he was so clever, and he was so busy um, um, copying posts from the real person's page, that the actual real person had gone to a convention and won $10,000 for some competition. And that nut sent me the picture of the real person at the convention, and it had the real person's name on the check. And then I started Googling it. So he disappeared pretty quick after that. I was, really?
What was it that he said?
He said hello.
No, I mean to tell you to make you decide to
Oh,
send
Donna.
him money. I
Oh,
know.
Donna.
Just what is that?
He lived in this $10,000 home in California, and he was having all these fabulous parties. And I'm in my room after I fed my senior, and I'm just bored stiff. And I'm thinking I'm gonna be riding on the Pacific Coast Highway with him in his little two-seater convertible Benz. Are you kidding me? Girl, I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid. And if my little mentee hadn't told me I was being catfished, I may still have been catfish. I mean, who knows? Yes, I was in limerence, Victoria, but I didn't know it. I never heard of that word before
No,
tonight.
that's a good word. I'm gonna have to look it up when we get off. Tell me, how long did it take you to say to somebody? I know we did this in 2020, right?
Oh,
So
I
how
started telling her right away. Oh yeah, I can't keep a thing. Yeah, no. Everybody knows. I've been on your show. I've been on a few. I've told it on my, oh no, I told everyone, watch out. Just say no. And I still get so many I used to get a lot when I was on Facebook, a lot of come-ons from different people. You don't really know if they're male or female, because one of my male friends told me it's happened to him frequently, and he said you never really know if it's a male or a female because they're so clever at presenting themselves as someone else. So you never really know. And
did
that's where
you
the big
did
one.
he do the love bombing thing? Long emails, long DMs. I
It
mean,
was
how did you communicate?
it was only on Instagram.
Oh, and I don't know much about Instagram. So
It was
the
only on
conversations are
Instagram.
short.
No, trust me, they were very long. It was Instagram. We were typing, type. That's the other thing. When he started misspelling words, I knew he was an idiot. I knew. So I said, something is up with him. He can't even spell simple. What is going on? You see what I'm saying? Nigeria or somewhere. I don't know where, but it was a mess, Donna. Well, where'd you go to school? Did you go to school?
So once it clicked on that
Mhm.
something wasn't right, did you just kind of mess with him with it for a little
I
while?
did.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I asked him once in order to prove who he was, if he would I asked him to hold up a newspaper and take a picture of the newspaper. He wouldn't do that. And so what he did to counter that was he hid his face and took a picture of his private part and sent his private part. And I told him it was way too small. Goodbye.
But at that point, you had enough. That was that.
Oh
That was
yeah, I knew he
yeah,
was. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It was
And
ridiculous.
could it happen to you again?
No, absolutely not. No.
And were you able to report it to the authorities to maybe get your money back or?
No, I didn't try to get the money back, but I did get in touch with the person whose identity he was stolen, and we had about two conversations, and then of course, I reported him to Instagram. Of course, oh yeah,
But they just come back as different people, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
How did the man react when you said, hey, you know this?
It had happened to him before.
Okay.
And so what he did was he put several posts out there on his page, because by now I'm following his page, right? And he told everyone that it wasn't him, and he sort of explained briefly what had happened.
So have you met anybody else that this has happened to?
Oh, I know several, yes.
Oh,
As a matter of fact, I'm a senior and I live in a senior building. And one day, one of my seniors in my building was telling me how she had fallen in limerence.
oh,
She didn't use that word, and
she
how she
did?
was she didn't use the word
Oh, she did not.
limerence,
Yeah, I was getting ready to say
but
that's
that's
the word.
what
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
what she meant,
yeah,
Donna.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and her head was full, and she started explaining this relationship she was having with this foreigner, and how she was sending him money, and he was sending her jewels, and he was buying her a ticket, and they were going to buy this home. And I couldn't tell her that he was catfishing her because she wasn't going to believe me. She had swallowed it hook, line, and sinker.
So have you followed up with her? Is she still?
Absolutely not. No. Mm-mm. Nope.
Because some people you just can't bring out of it,
No.
right? Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So if you had anything to say to women now, what would be the first thing you say to look for?
Well, first of all, you want to see them face to face. You need a video. You need to see them face to face. If they're afraid to do a video, then they're just not real. I mean, why would you want to hide yourself from someone that you're interested in talking to? Because some of the pictures on Facebook and in social media, they're not current.
Right.
I got a picture out there when I was 25 and I'm 67. You
Yeah,
see what I'm
Facebook
saying?
doesn't do you any justice when it
You
decides to
see
go
what?
way, way back.
Exactly.
Now to 2008, 2007 when we all started on Facebook. Yeah,
There
it
you
doesn't do
go.
justice. Um, Thank you for, I mean, that's not the first time we've talked about it. And we have
Right.
another friend who was on the show when I was on the radio.
Mhm.
We discussed it then, but I think sometimes people say, oh, these are people I don't know. So it's really nice to put a face to a person who
Right.
has, in the community,
Mhm.
knows the community,
Yep.
intelligent,
Mhm.
God-fearing,
Mhm.
and still got caught up because of
And
whatever.
yes, yes, absolutely. And he appeared to be so much older, and I didn't mind at all calling myself a cougar. Gonna be a cougar.
Yay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to switch back over to Victoria. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for
Thank you.
sharing your story with us. So, Victoria, Do you think that our nation does the elderly injustice when it comes to socialization and choices? You can't
Yes.
shake your head. You got.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do think
Yes.
I do. I do.
Uh,
With our elderly populations,
yes.
of course we do. We don't really have much reverence for our elderly in our culture. And I think that some of our older folks get way too isolated.
Right.
Certainly during COVID, our senior population suffered tremendously. If they lived alone, if they were single, they didn't live with an extended family, they were really cut off. And if they didn't have access to social media, even more so. So,
And those were the ones that really got caught up in 2019 and 2020. In the stories that I've read, hundreds and thousands of dollars, whole bank accounts taken because of the possibility of companionship.
absolutely. And that makes sense to us, doesn't it? I mean, we all know have had, moments of loneliness or yearning for connection, but for our senior population, perhaps there were even fewer opportunities, and we can just see how this could sweep someone right off their feet.
Yeah. And in your practice, has
Mm,
anybody ever gotten their money back?
no,
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 no.
no. No, no, they
It's
don't
just
get their money
gone.
back. Talk about ghosting. I mean, once they know you're onto them, they're you don't even know who you were talking to. You don't even know who you were talking to. So yeah.
And I read somewhere that they even have bank accounts that you can send the money to. The lady was just recently, I think it was
Yes.
like $39,000, right?
Yes.
Um, oh,
It's heartbreaking what we will do for love and connection.
and why aren't the banks more responsible?
Well, I think that's an excellent question and one that
Right? Because if that's out of the norm, I mean, I can go to another state and they're
that's
stopping
right.
my transactions, right? Because
That's
what are you doing in, Utah, whatever,
right.
right? Call the bank. But you're going to let me transfer, the limit is $2,000, I guess, or $3,000 a day to an international account that I've never done before.
Shocking, isn't it? How they dropped the ball.
It really is shocking
That's
for
right.
me
That is.
that you would let an elderly person empty their bank account to an international account
That's right.
without any
Without
with,
anyone raising a red flag.
anyone written there. But go to Utah as a Black person, try to use your American spelling.
Sorry,
And they're
no,
like, wait a
not
minute,
happening.
what are you doing in Utah? No, I'm just saying. It just seems to me that they're very quick about those things.
That's right.
And you let an elderly person send thousands and thousands of dollars.
Especially for our elderly that may be down south here.
Right.
Family is up north, back east, wherever. And the person is isolated and someone just swoops right in and tells them everything they've been wanting to hear. And this is where our men get caught up as well.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think it's all women. I've had
no.
at least two gentlemen. They said banks tell us they provide personal banking, but they don't. That's right.
But they don't. They
That
don't.
they pick and choose what they think is personal, right?
I think so. And we can't assume they're going to be, if we have someone in our family, can't assume that the banks are going to be eyes on it. We can't
Right.
assume.
Well, we know that that does not happen, unfortunately. I'm hoping that, now that we can't do any real money, so maybe that that kind of transaction stuff will be better. But Who knows? Let's kind of switch gears for a minute because you are a therapist, and I would like to talk to you um, about that and the practice of melanated people not seeking therapy. Why do you think that is? And or no, let me change that. Has that changed over the years, or do you see it being just a steady flow of non-melanated people coming to your office for assistance?
No, I think it has begun changing. I do.
Okay.
I really do. I think people are much more open to the idea of therapy. They have more friends that have been to therapy. And of course, we know this is a trust issue. And of course, we have more therapists now of color, of different races, which is what we want. We want everybody to feel that they're represented. But why wouldn't people of color feel like there was a trust issue? Go back to what you said about the idea of dating a white man. Why would you want to go into a white person? Let me just tell you everything. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on
No,
now.
I get it. I just I personally get it, and I've been to a therapist, but I do know that there are people who say there's just no way. Because we were raised in households that say what goes on in this house stays in this house.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
You
That's
don't
right.
share information like that with people that
That's
you
right.
don't know, right?
That's
And I
right.
think that kind of ideology is waning itself, because I think if you need help, you just need help.
Right.
Right.
I think it also helps that more people have access to therapy, perhaps through their work, through an EAP program that will allow them to go in for 6 free sessions. And they may see that as a work benefit, so they're more willing to go to something like that than just necessarily asking around about, do you have a therapist? But I think that if anyone that's in need of therapy, if they find themselves willing to go forward with it, you connect with the therapist.
Right.
I think at that point, all those other issues start to fade away a little bit, because you begin to develop a trust relationship with the therapist that you're seeing.
Did you find your online therapy grew tremendously during the?
Donna, I never was a fan of online therapy till COVID, and one day I was like, oh, wow, okay, if I guess I'm gonna go online, or what's the rules? I mean, what are you
Right.
Yeah, and the first year I cried all the way through it. It was really like the Wild West out here on just tell you the truth. Anything you can imagine. But now we're 3 years into it, and to go back into the office would be almost as hard work as coming out of the office and online.
Really?
Really, because all my
But
people are online now.
oh, they really are?
I have
You don't leave the house?
I see everybody online, and I say no to people every day because I cannot see as many people as one therapy. I mean, there is a great
Well,
need.
because there is a point when a therapist needs a therapist, because you can
That's
only
right.
take in. Do you have your own therapist?
Of course, I've had my
Oh.
own therapist since I became a therapist. Are you kidding me?
Of course.
It's like, hey, I need someone to talk to about
Yeah,
this.
because it's real hard to take in all that and not keep some of it, right?
And of course, there is transference, Donna.
Right.
When you go to see a therapist, if they're not doing their own work, if they're not seeing a therapist, I'd be a little concerned. And one of the first things, and of course, this is what therapists do when COVID hit, is a group of us formed our own support group and
Oh,
started
good.
we met every week for the first year because we were a wreck, all of us. I mean, therapists were going through this at the same time as everybody else. So
Yeah.
immediately, 4 or 5 of us immediately started.
And you were the soothing sponge, but even a sponge gets full.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
got to bring it out. It doesn't
That's
soak up
right.
anything else, right?
Well, that goes to life-work balance. If you're
Right.
not doing your own work, if you're not taking care of your own issues, how are you going to take care of someone else?
Right. Yeah, it's like being on a plane.
That's
Put the
right.
mask on first.
Thank you, Donna. That's
Right,
it,
because
exactly.
if you're not breathing, you can't
That's
help
right.
anybody else who's not breathing.
That's right.
So being a let's sex therapist, that's one of the things that I love to talk about. Have you found that a lot of this behavior begins with, we're going back to catfishing and love bombing and all that, with the beginning of sexual talk or emotional bonding with another person? I can't see that it would be so sexual with an older person, but maybe. I mean, I just don't know.
Oh, yes, Donna, it can be
Oh,
very
yes. Okay.
difficult with older people. Let's not make those assumptions that they're cut
Yeah,
off.
considering I is an older person, you're right. Let's not assume that.
I think with catfishing, I think specifically for women, it definitely begins with an emotional bond.
Mm.
I don't think sending pictures of your genitals to women are necessarily the connection that women are looking for. Perhaps for men who are being catfished, they are more open to a little sexy talk right from the beginning, and that catches their ear. But I think for most women and men, they want that emotional bond. They do want that emotional bond. There's plenty of other options if all you're looking for is, a sexual connection.
The other lady that I know, the guy was very good, to the point where he wrote down birthdays and wrote down special occasions or things that she said.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I said to her, I think you're being recorded. I don't think I really don't think they're taking the time to write all this stuff down, right? And so that's what the way they get to repeat it to you so easily, because they record the conversation.
Of course. And then they know
Oh
exactly
man.
what to remember.
Hmm. So does this take forgiveness and therapy? What does it take? Speaking your truth like Loretha does. Is that the thing to do?
Mm.
Or,
Well, I think, and I'm sure Loretha can speak to this for us, but when we talk about forgiveness, forgiving yourself for being vulnerable is the first thing. Come on, we can all be vulnerable in our life. And if we cannot forgive ourselves, then we're not going to be able to heal from it. Forgiving isn't forgetting. And I think when we talk about shame, we want to remember there's a difference between toxic shame, which is like drinking the poison of should. I should have done this, I should have done that.
woulda, coulda, yeah.
But that healthy shame says, oh, wow, I see where I slipped here. And I'm not going to let this happen again. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I keep falling down the same rabbit hole. I keep
So you want to take a good look at that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
What is it that
Ooh,
you
I'm
find
tired
so
of looking at the
appealing?
king. I'm tired of looking at the king of space. Is that who she saw when she fell out? Yeah, Alice. So it really does take a lot of forgiveness.
It
Yeah.
does.
Also put an Instagram account on hold. I don't really have an Instagram account. I do, but I don't know how to use it. Tamara, I hit her up every now and then, but I really don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I guess you got to get out of some of that social media because it can overwhelm you.
Well, it can, and it can begin to replace face to face and connection in real time. And we forget that no matter how real it feels, these are people we have never met. We have never met them. And so we have really no idea what they're like. If it's a relationship held online only, then we only know what they're telling us. We don't really know the real person, and they don't know us. So what are the odds that we're ever going to know them?
Not if you don't see each other face to face.
That's it, exactly.
I believe in smell and touch and
All the senses,
just
all
all
the
the senses have to be there for me.
That's right.
So to the audience, if you think that it's not good, then it probably is not good. You really ought to take a second look at that person, whoever that person is. And don't fall down the rabbit hole because nobody's down there but the ace of spade or whoever he is standing around asking you, why are you back here? Alice, why are you back in the hole? So are you taking new clients?
Am I what?
Are you
Am I
taking
taking new clients? That depends on the month. Not this
Okay.
month. I am not.
Not this month.
but you know, I reassess that every month because people come, people leave. Some people come for a long time. Some people come for a short time. So I never say yes unless I'm
Mhm.
sure that I'm going to have the time to see the person
Right,
because
and it's important. How long is an average session? Is it 40 minutes?
55 minutes.
55 minutes. Okay.
Yes,
And
it
do
is.
people come to you weekly,
I do
daily?
have some people I see weekly. I have some people I see twice a month, once a month, every 6 weeks. It depends on what their situation is. Then I have, you know, couples that I see as well. So if someone's in an acute situation, it's the first time they're coming in, they're having a lot of issues with it. I want to be sure I'm going to be able to see them frequently in the beginning and not see them and then not be able to see them again for 4 weeks after we just open up everything. So I really try to pace taking on new people so that I'm fair to them.
Tam, I'm not sure that Vicky takes parenting type therapy as parenting therapy, but you certainly can contact her offline and get that information. I'm not sure that that's her specialty, but she's more than willing to talk about it.
I do some parenting issues, but it really depends on the situation, right? What the circumstances are.
Oh, parents need sex therapy. Okay.
And parents that need sex therapy, often what they need is a lock on their door.
Lock
And
the
a good
door.
date night.
Yeah. Is that what you were kind of thinking of, Tam? Okay, yeah. It's important that you make time for each other, especially when you're
Really.
raising children,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And I'm old school. I don't believe children should sleep in your bed and all that stuff. But you know, these new parents don't believe that. So you really have to find time for that. And yeah, please contact her. She's on my Facebook page, and of course, she'll send you her information when this is all over. Um, is there anything else you'd like to cover? I mean, we could talk all night about
Well,
what people need as far as therapy is concerned.
I think that what I'd like to leave your audience with is that in this very stressful world that we live in, where we have information coming at us from every direction, that it is really important to take time to be where you're at and be in this moment and not be so much in our heads with future projection or worrying about the past, that life is lived in this moment. And it's really important to remember to breathe, right? And be in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions for Victoria before we go? I need date night and we do it often.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. That's a really healthy thing to
It
do in a
is. It really
relationship.
is.
Courtship never ends, Donna.
Right. Martin, you put something in here about the bank. What did you say? As it stands now, the threshold amount to trip the banking laws due to Patriot Act is $10,000. Okay. All right. They probably know that too, right?
Yeah, they know
They
that.
do it in $1,000 increments.
Yeah.
We'll click on I agree tabs and away goes the money. Okay. Well, yeah.
And then
I
you
didn't
move
know
into
what was
wire
tripped.
transfers.
What you say?
Then you move over into the wire transfers. Speaking as a, catfisher myself, I know if you get to 10,001, you get in trouble. But you get to say 9,999, you're golden.
Thank you for
I learned that the hard way when I was a real estate agent, and guy bought a house and we stayed there only to find out that he was a major cocaine and heroin dealer. And I ended up talking to the FBI and the DEA in Chesterfield County, and I said too much about my past life.
So you do know this is going on my web, right? Please be careful.
please.
Anyway, so $10,000 is the trip ticket. And so most of these people know that that is the case. Wow. Anyway. I know, Mama Tony, you just shaking your head and you're just glad you're not out here trying to date. Stan, I know. Martin, so listen, thank you all again for being here. Victoria, it's always my pleasure, you know.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for being on Zoom in on a Fresh Conversation. And when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Good night, Donna.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.